Call this budget forum meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next we have roll call. Patty?
Tom Kennedy.
Here.
John Hagerman. Here. Christian Pryor.
Here.
Tom Grattan.
Here.
In the event of an emergency, all visitors are advised that they may exit this room from the one side door which leads directly into the parking lot. In the event of an emergency, everyone is asked to move away from the building and do not attempt to leave in your automobile, since this may cause traffic problems and block incoming emergency vehicles.
Okay, well, Happy New Year. Welcome back. And we'll turn it over to Dr. Morrow to start our budget forum.
So the budget forum is specifically designed so that if there's anybody in our community that wants to come in and comment on things that they feel strongly about in our budget, or things that they may want to add, and that also, applies to anybody on our board. We are at the very beginning of our budget cycle. We are just starting to get numbers for next year about things like insurances and retirements and, retirement plans and payments and increases. And so we're starting to put that together. We won't have state aid numbers for another couple of months, right, Chuck? It's supposed to be April 1, right? Yeah. So, the truth is you can't do much without that. We're hoping for a positive year. But at this time, I'm going to ask if there's anybody on the board that wants to ask any questions to either myself or Chuck. And then, if there's anything that you want to say, Chuck, and that's it, because we don't really have anybody here asking questions. So.
Well, that was with no one being here asking questions, considering the time of year and the weather. I mean, is it open where people, I guess, could email either the board or you, and then we can...
Yeah, they can email.
Get those comments and consider those in future meetings.
Sure.
Okay. So that was all.
Does anybody else that has any questions or comments or things they've heard about programs or?
I know that there's been questions about the playground. So, and I know that you and I had spoken at one point, and you said that you had somebody coming, and...
We have people, there was a group that was looking at trying to fundraise for it, and they got an estimate from a company that we're not really particularly familiar with, that we've not ever worked with before. So Anthony has reached out to them to find out exactly what their specs are. And we've also reached out to some of the companies that we have worked with in different areas to see if they have estimates on it. Our playground is aging. And it's something that, we are going to have to look at replacing in the next few years. So all of that is on the radar. One of our elementary teachers and a couple of community members have looked at, trying to work with some of our neighboring businesses to do bits and pieces out there. Extending on some of the things that we already do have. We have some ancillary pieces on our playground, like gaga pits and amphitheaters that are not aging, that are really actually in quite good shape.
Yeah.
And, it's the one big piece of equipment that's, our guys put a lot of time in this summer. They sanded it all down and painted it, and it does look great, but it's old. It's old, and it's there are a few pieces of it that have been decommissioned because they were unsafe, and we couldn't get replacement pieces for them. So, so that is something that we're looking at. You'd be surprised at how expensive they are. They run between $300,000 and $500,000 because it's not as simple as it used to be, where you could just. That one was put in by the community.
Oh, yes.
There were. There are different safety specs, like rubberized, $90,000 rubberized a pour that you have to have for your insurances, and so it's not as easy or as inexpensive as it may have been in the past, but that's certainly an item that we're looking at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we anticipate any new or large expenditures or any refreshes of any programs or maintenance and facilities this year that would be different from like last year or previous years?
Not that are, being a 100-and-something-year-old building, there is a certain amount of upkeep that we do every year. We don't anticipate anything like the boilers or things like that like we did last year. We do have a list of things that when we met with the Building and Grounds Committee last year, we put together, like, the roof on the middle schools is aged out, and so there are definitely things, we've started to prepare for them. Many of them will be done within our own individual budget, like, over the break, for whatever the reason may be, when they redid the cafeteria downstairs, which was beautiful, they didn't do the hallway with the same flooring, so the flooring in the hallway was the painted concrete. We finished that all out over break, so now it's the same type of flooring that you have in the hallways everywhere up here, plus we did 2 classrooms upstairs where we had tiles coming up, and, rather than spending the money on putting 20-year-old tiles back down, finding them and then putting them back down, we redid the new flooring. So there are things like that that are part of our budget. We don't have there's nothing that has come up in the first half of the year that would be a large unanticipated cost. There are large costs annually, no different than in your own house. And the truth is, the best way to keep them as reasonable costs is to do them annually. When you let them go, which is quite common in school districts, you see districts that bond out for $20 million just to do infrastructure because they're falling apart. You've waited a little bit too long at that point in time, so.
I know there was some talk last year, we talked maybe about a new building in the back as a storage.
Yeah, that's, I have a meeting tomorrow with Anthony, and he has his whole wish list, and I know that's on it.
Right.
The 2 portables that we have back there are, they're only used for storage
Yeah.
because they're old and decrepit and
Shot.
they're shot. There's things growing out of the roofs. They're not falling down, but they're close. So ideally, over the next few years, depending on when we can budget it in, we would like to replace one year and one the next. It will, not only will it get rid of something that we're going to have to get rid of, it will give us a lot more storage because they're still set up inside like classrooms. So you don't get optimal storage in them. They're not gutted. You have stuff piled in the bathrooms and because they were used as classrooms for so many years, and that's what they were set up as. So the storage that you get out of them is not really consistent with the square footage of the actual size of the building. So putting in a couple of pole barns, which are not incredibly expensive, the pole barns, would give us something that is in much better shape, will last a lot longer, and will also probably give us better storage than what we have now. So that's what we're looking at doing. We're meeting tomorrow. And again, this is the very beginning of the budget process, so I have a meeting tomorrow with Chuck and Anthony, and part of that is, this is the list of stuff that we can do and we know we have to do. And then these are things we want to do.
Right.
Also. And then we look at whether they can be done within our current budget, which is the ideal.
Yep.
A lot of the work that we did, like down in the guidance area, and, all of that was done within our current budget. So we didn't have to add that onto new budget. We just utilized areas where we had kids that switched out of district placements and things like that, and that freed up some monies, and we were able to do that within our budget. So that would be the ultimate goal, but.
But
Yeah.
when you keep it in mind, when
Yeah.
you're doing that, maybe put up one decent-sized building in one shot and
Yeah.
take care of all of it, and you know what I mean, instead of a couple
So,
small.
yeah, so a lot of it's going to depend on what it's going to cost to get rid of the old ones.
Right.
There are times where it'll cost you an extra $20,000 or $30,000 if you do it in 2 pieces, because they have to bring all their equipment here, and they have to bring all their dumpsters here and trucks, and so, we have to look at what the cost of everything will be if we do it in 1 shot or if we do it in 2.
Yep.
And then we'll make a decision, even if we take 2 down and put 1 up and then put another one up the following year or something like that. We'll look at it, but Anthony already has numbers. He's going to have them at my meeting for me tomorrow. Chuck, is there anything you'd like to add? Anybody have any other questions or comments, or?
Yeah, no, I mean, I know Again, we're waiting for another month or two. Hopefully, we'll have more information. We're looking closely at what state aid will look like. Some of the big dollar amounts we're looking at is, health insurance is always sometimes something we got to keep an eye on because that's a big part of our budget. BOCES and transportation usually follows the consumer price index, so we'll look at that closely. So a lot will happen in the next month or two to get more information.
You brought up transportation. Are we still, waived from the EV bus?
You have to do individual waivers. I actually just received a brief from Ingerman today on it. So they will allow, and I'm going to paraphrase because I read the brief from Ingerman this afternoon. They will allow you, under certain circumstances, to request a 2-year waiver on purchasing EV buses. They've kept the 2035 date in place. So by 2035, you're not supposed to have any more gas vehicles in your entire fleet. But if you happen to be buying this year or next year, the truth is, we don't have the infrastructure out here yet, and National Grid has not confirmed that they're going to be able to supply us for EV buses. We have spoken to them about it, and, I had to do a survey over the summer, and, have you spoken to the National Grid? Have they given you an answer on these things? There are some bus companies. Sunrise has not really told us one way or the other unless they've told you something. But there are some of the smaller bus companies on Long Island, one on the South Fork that has said, look, when we got to go all EV, we're just closing. They've already publicly told their school districts that because they don't want them left in the lurch. We've not heard that from ours, so I don't expect that will be what it is. But right now, EV buses run approximately $400,000 for a full-size bus. Plus you have to put in the infrastructure to charge it, plus you have to figure out, we use local dealers and mechanics to maintain our buses. You have to find somebody that can do that and will do that.
A lot of things can change between now and 2035.
Yeah.
so-
Are we looking at buying,
About it too much right now.
are we looking at buying a bus this year? I know we bought one last year, which was before the waiver.
We are considering it. So we've been criticized because our fleet is older, and when it fails inspection, it hurts, it doesn't meet certain protocol. So even though the buses get inspected twice a year, and we only have a couple of buses, we don't have a lot. We bring it in, they might have some, lights, or something has to be fixed. When that happens to, I forget if it's like over, say, 50%, that hurts us, and then there was a penalty for us. So we would like to buy, we bought a recent small bus, but right now there's no plans, but we would like to consider maybe replacing another bus or so.
So we may have to look at, if we're looking at going gas, we may have to look at the waiver, and if we're not, then we're going to have to look at, where we can get an EV bus, and I don't know of any districts out here that are running EV buses. I don't know of any districts on Long Island that are running it.
What's a bus go for?
About $250,000, a regular gas
A
bus.
regular? And
Tip-
then,
yeah.
what do we get out of it? How many years?
I would think, we don't put too much mileage on it. A lot of what we've seen is the body with the salt and
Yeah.
I don't know, 10, 15 years. Our buses, we get them all, maintained and fine, but still, there's sometimes always something that causes an inspection, and it's too expensive to fix.
In a typical district, you look at 5 to 10. We get about 5 years longer than that
Right.
out here, because we just don't, we don't have the distance that you have to go in some other place. We don't have the tiers. Like, we run an elementary and then a secondary, where in my prior district, we ran 3 AMs, 3 PMs, and then 2 lates. So each bus did 5 routes a day, where here, our buses do 2 routes a day. So we just don't have the distance or the mileage, or so ours tend to last longer. But the problem is, when DOT comes in, a 15-year-old bus is, they don't pass it. Not everything works exactly the way it's supposed to, and then you spend money upkeeping it, so, 10 years.
How many we running now? Do
We
got-
run 2 bigs and 2 littles, right? Buses?
Yeah, two large and two small ones. And it's funny, the oldest vehicle, the bus that we have is probably the ones that they prefer. That's the most reliable, is the oldest one, so sometimes you never know, but.
Yeah.
And is that supplemented by Sunrise?
Yeah.
So, okay, so we have those.
Contract with Sunrise for the other 5 routes, right? Is it 5?
It's 5, yeah.
You know, we've looked at consolidating routes. Our problem is that, our problem isn't the number of students, it's the area they have to cover. You know, but we'll continue to look at that annually, you know, counting our buses and looking at how many. It's very difficult, like, in the high school, when you don't have sports, you might have 20 extra kids on a bus. And you have to have seats for them. You can't say to them, hey, look, you know, you're not going to ride most of the time, you can't come. You know, it doesn't work that way. Like, you have to have a seat for them, even though if they play 3 sports, they're probably only going to use that seat 20 times in a year out of the 180 days. You're still obligated if they're outside of the threshold, you know, of the distance that is set by the district. Ours, I believe, is a mile, right? So if you live past a mile, we're obligated to have a seat for you. And, you know, the fact that you don't use the bus that often because you play sports or you're in drama or whatever it may be, or you come in for 0 period for ROTC, there are days where you are going to need your seat, and we have to have it for you. So it's not as simple as how many people are just on the bus. Our elementary numbers are a lot more consistent because there's less AM and PM activities in the elementary school. So we'll keep an eye on it. I'll look through the briefs again and talk with Ingerman if we're going to look at, you know, if we are going to look at purchasing a bus this year. The truth is, you know, if they don't change the 35 number, I don't know how long EV buses last. You know, they're also new that it's hard. I can tell you from old buses, because we had 100 in our fleet in the district I used to work in, so I'm very familiar with the numbers and the upkeep and all that stuff, but I don't really know. You know, I don't know how long an EV bus lasts.
But if I had something to say about it, I would stay away from them as long as possible.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, like, Ford just continued their EV truck because there were so many problems with it. They're going to keep their hybrid truck, but they've eliminated the full-size EV truck. So,
A lot of electric vehicles sitting on the lot they can't get rid of.
yeah, there was a couple of articles out of some Canadian schools last year where they went to EV buses, and, you know, in the really cold weather, the batteries were running down in half the time, so they weren't even able to finish their routes. There's also answers we've never gotten, like, for instance, if we had a full EV fleet and we brought all our kids in, and at 11 o'clock there was some sort of emergency and we had to bring our kids home, we wouldn't be able to do it because our buses would be getting charged. You know, they need to charge for a period of time in between their routes. And there's not been a lot of answers on how you manage something like that. We've asked the state at some different forums I've been at, and so there's still a lot of things to figure out.
Sounds good, but
Excuse me?
it sounds good, but the logistics of the whole thing
Yeah.
aren't even fully thought out, I don't think.
Heaters on the buses drain the battery. They were using external heaters up in Canada on the buses, which I don't believe is particularly safe.
If I was betting, Sunrise would tell you they're going out of business too if they had to buy all EVs.
Yeah. And they run a lot of buses, Sunrise. 25 EVs at 400 grand each is a lot of money.
Plus the batteries.
Yeah, so. Thank you, Chuck. This is, you missed the beginning spiel, but this is a time where we can hear from our community about any questions or comments they have about the budget, because we're at the very beginning of the budget process now. So if you'd like to, please feel free.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Erin Argo. I have a student here at Southold High School. I also have a student at Southold Elementary. I am just wondering, because we actually came from the Mattituck-Cutchogue School District, and I'm very familiar with that district, spent some time there. There are things here that I was just interested in finding out if they were going to be addressed, particularly the area below this floor, the cafeteria space in particular, and where the ROTC gather. There's just it's clear that there's some HVAC issues that are happening down there that are a little bit problematic. The space itself seems to not be heated and cooled properly. I've heard from my child who goes to school here that there's constantly HVAC issues going on in various classrooms, whether it's something that's stuck or caught in the system and is making noises and it's difficult for the kids to pay attention, or if it's actually issues with the system itself and properly heating and cooling, teachers wearing coats in the classroom. So these are things that obviously, as we're talking about the budget and what's important to be addressed and to be looked at, certainly I think the mechanicals and the electricals here in this building are something to be considered, and just wanted to hear from you all if you had taken that into consideration as the budget is being created.
So, last year, was it last year?
Yeah.
The boilers?
Yes.
Yeah, so last year we put in 4 new boilers, 2 in this building and 2 in the other, because ours were older and antiquated. I've not had any complaints about any of the HVAC or heard what you're saying, but I have a meeting with my facilities director tomorrow, so I'm going to ask him about it and find out. We do have what are called univents in most of our classrooms, especially at the elementary school, and they are, they're unique to schools. They have heating pipes in them, and they blow a combination of fresh air and cool and warm air, depending on. We have a computerized. Do you know the name of our system? I can't give you the technical name, but basically every room in our district is. You can look on the computer; it tells you what the heat is, the temperature is, and we can turn it up and down. We do have some teachers that say, "Look, can you keep mine at 65? I don't want it at 68." We have others that are cold, and they say, "Can you set mine at 70?" And the univent will pump in fresh air when the room is at temperature, and it'll pump in warm air when the room is cold. And then. I don't know much about the sounds or the things like that, but, if you have information about it, you can certainly email it to me. Like I said, I'm meeting with my director tomorrow, but those types of things we wouldn't, unless we needed like a complete overhaul, like $4 million worth of boilers like we had to do last year. We have capital monies in our budget to do repairs and upkeep on those types of things. We wouldn't really wait to the budget cycle unless it were if it was something incredibly major that we had to, like some of our air conditioning units on the top of the building. The one that's in the auditorium, we replaced that my first year here, and that's it's a $350,000 unit. That we wouldn't have operating budget to just replace. We ended up using grant monies for it, but and then we're replacing the one on top of our science labs, which does the tech shop and some of the science rooms. So some of them we would build in that way. So if you have more specific information, aside from that, I'm going to ask. I've not heard anything about downstairs.
Yeah, the downstairs temperature fluctuation is pretty extreme. When we first visited the school, actually, I physically felt it myself. We walked through the school, and the temperature difference between this floor and the basement was markedly different. It just seems like the system is perhaps not reading properly, or doesn't, it felt extremely humid down there. It was sort of just like a rainforest moist heat experience, which I can't imagine that's pleasant to eat lunch in. So, in terms of just the facility itself and just how that's being maintained, I wonder about if there's any interest in making any sort of upgrades, or if anyone else has expressed concerns, because as I hear the kids talk about it, I don't know if it makes its way up to anyone else ever, but I hear about it at home, and I can't imagine I'm the only parent who's hearing it. It just maybe I'm the only parent who showed up to talk about it.
So does the computer system, like for the rooms that controls a different temperature control, does it have like historical data? Could we look back and see if there's like a variance in temperature downstairs from other parts of the
I
building?
can find out.
Okay. So that may, help.
Anthony's office is downstairs,
Oh.
so his office is right next to the ROTC room. I can find out. I don't know.
Yeah, so if it's like an anomaly in one part of the building, at least it kind of,
Yeah, we can look at why. I know the cafeteria, I frequent, I don't spend a lot of time in the ROTC room, so I really don't, I don't have a great gauge on that. The cafeteria I do spend more time in, and it's, I've not seen problems in it, but that, I don't spend, I'm not there every day like kids are. So it's certainly something for us to look into. But, to answer your question, yes, we look to budget and to upkeep all those different things. And ideally now is a better time to know about them than later. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd just love for you guys to consider that and look into it a little more.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? That's it.
No, once we're in the room, so guess we'll adjourn it, so go ahead.
Hold on.
Sorry. Is the budget, before it's passed, made public? Is it something that can be looked at?
So
And
we'll
if so,
have,
where?
we will have multiple budget forums, and at each forum, another kind of part of the budget will be added in, and then the entire budget is usually shared a month before,
Weeks before the vote.
before the adoption. So we have to adopt 30 days before the actual vote. The vote is in June, so,
May,
I'm sorry, May?
yeah. Third Tuesday in May,
Yeah.
and has to be adopted probably the beginning of April.
Yeah, and then usually it's about a couple weeks before that,
We usually have,
Packets already
Yeah.
available
Yeah.
on the website.
yeah,
there's usually 2 or 3 budget meetings
Mhm.
between March and April.
Yeah.
Where things are, different areas are presented, and it's on the website once it's adopted, so.
Thank you very much.
And then the mailer goes out too, correct?
Yeah.
And then
Mailer
there's
goes out that explains, everybody in the community gets mailed an explanation of the budget and where the money's going, the changes from year to year, and, that has to go out in multiple languages. Yep.
Well, I only need it in English, and I'll be looking forward to that.
So the budget meetings, along with the regular meetings, will be posted on the website. So you can look at the district website and see the meeting schedule for the rest of the year.
They should be on our calendar already, right, Chuck?
They are.
They are.
Yeah, so the annual calendar that got mailed home to you, the budget meetings, are on there, and like a different part of our operating budget is presented at each one, in depth, the changes in it, and, all the different pieces of it.
Okay.
Yep.
So if that's it, I guess we'll just, we don't need to vote. We
Nope,
can
we
just
just
adjourn.
adjourn.
All right, thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.